So the question that I'm posing in this video is, how do I get a cat that's a total stranger to me and I'm a stranger to that cat? How do I get them to like me? Well, let's just not even start there. Let's just assume that it might be a little bit of a struggle getting from point A to point B. That's okay. Whether they're human, cat, or dog, or alligator, there is a possibility that it might not like you. The alligator might be a problem, by the way. But let's just get started on how to just even the room so that then you and the cat can have a relationship and determine where it goes from there. So in order to figure out who it is that you're walking into a room with, and we are now saying it is a cat. Let's remind ourselves who a cat is. The raw cat is the cat that is alive in every cat, including yours, and the one whose space you're walking into. And so it's important to remember that their ancestor is giving them warning signals or sort of acceptance signals, predator, prey, friend, or foe. So the best thing that we can do is respect the territory. Cats are by nature very territorial. So if you walk into a room and you own that space, well then strike one against you. So the best thing that you can possibly do is remember that. You're walking into a space where the cat's confidence, any cat's confidence, is predicated upon their perceived ownership of that territory. So you gotta let them know, it's okay, I don't own it. So in terms of ownership of territory, now we have to assume that whoever is the guardian of this cat has watched all of these videos and they know all about catification and getting cats to own the entire place from floor to ceiling. But what if not? Then when you're walking into the space, just by walking in and saying, hey kitty, and just walking up to them, that you are immediately putting yourself at a disadvantage because you are competing for the floor space. So if we look around and we see, okay, well the cat is not sitting on a shelf, on a bookcase, on a chair, someplace like that, where they can feel a little bit of a room to breathe territorially, then the best thing that you can do and the only thing that you should do every time you walk into a room, get off your feet, sit down, don't tower over. And I'm telling you, at this point, I can tell you, whether it's dog or cat, that just walking in there and claiming space by going over the top of them is a surefire way to get that animal not to like you, to treat you with a degree of wariness because you are claiming space. If there's two people in a room, one person who's like, I am the cat whisperer. All cats like me. I don't know why it is, but they just love me. And you walk in, you claim the space, etc., etc. And then you're the other person who is either allergic to cats or just doesn't like them in general. So you're going to sit in a corner and go, please don't come to me, cat. Please don't come to me, cat. Who is going to be the recipient of the cat's affection and attention? It's the second person. So why don't we just admit that and go with being the second person? You walk in the room, you get yourself off your feet, and you allow the cat to come to you. That puts you in a good place. So now we're going to get into the world of saying, all right, let's treat ourselves not as a guest in a home, because really, if you were a guest in a home, the cat would have invited you over. You didn't get the RSVP. You didn't get the save the date from the cat. You're just walking in. So now I want you to just think of yourself as something different. You're an ambassador. You're sitting at a table with someone from a different country you might never have even heard of. You're like, wow, that's a nation? Didn't even know that. And you're sitting there with them. What would you have done? So the first thing that you want to do is learn all about this nation.
Excuse me. Ouch. Ouch. Magsusulat lang ng notes.
And we kind of did that with the whole raw cat level set here, but let's get even deeper than that. If you really want to get deeper into it, go watch my video on the history of cats part 1 and 2. Now you get it. Now the nation of cat is set. You know the entire history, when the Declaration of Independence was signed, which it was from the very beginning, just, you know, spoiler alert. But now that you've got that set, who is the raw cat? What is their history? Now I feel confident sitting at a table with them. So the best thing that we can do is, I'm an ambassador from my nation, you're an ambassador from yours, Cat Nation, and now we've gotten to the point where we understand that we have different customs, different language, different body languages, different greetings. Everything is different. Now we're going to get to the point where we're going to get into the actual greeting where everyone feels cool about the other person. I know that you're not a foe. Now let's find out if you're a friend. And this is the thing that I call the 3-step handshake. So the 3-step handshake is, I'm not going to make assumptions anywhere along the line. And just so you know what the three-step handshake doesn't look like, the three-step handshake doesn't look like me going in and just trying to pet the cat, because that is, at the end of the day, a lack of consent. And so this thing with the three-step handshake and the ambassador and all that is letting you know that at every step along the way, you're asking for consent instead of assuming that it's going to be okay, that I put my hand out and just potentially violate. And you know, as we're sitting here doing our three-step handshake together, you and me, well, the best thing that you can do to show me that you like me is to like this video. Also subscribe to the channel, leave a comment down below, and watch another video. That's it. Now we can get on to having our post-negotiation dinner. Now, the first step to the three-step handshake is I'm just going to take my hands, my whole, like anything that could be offensive, out of the equation. Knowing that I got to back it up to a cat sizing someone up as predator or prey or somewhere in the middle, I'm going to demonstrate that I trust that cat and that they can trust me back. And the way that I have laid that out for you guys in the past is something we call the slow blink. So if we are standing, you know, in the wilderness and it's me and this cat, what would be a way for me to demonstrate that I trust you? Well, closing my eyes to you. Assuming that if I do that, you're not going to kill me. I know you're not going to kill me. I know, because I know, and I trust you. That's what we do by closing our eyes. I'm going to take off my glasses, and here's what we do. We do not ever stare. You do that to a cat, I mean, they're basically like, okay, I feel threatened. So we soften eyes, and slowly, and open again. The cat, I love you. I love you. And in my experience anyway, I can expect, if not a blink back, a softening, right? And we get that softening, we're good to go to the next step in the handshake. And the next step, speaking of my glasses, is this. This is the next step. I use this because it has my scent on it, but it's not me. It's not my hand. It's not this thing that I'm inserting into the conversation. I am offering my scent to you. And I offer my scent to you, and if you smell it, in the best case scenario, if you're the cat and you smell it, you kind of do this thing. Rub the cheeks up against it. Now we both have our scent on the same thing. If anything, they can smell it and go, all right, see that body language? Okay. But they're still okay with it, you know? That's it. Now we've done this thing where from a distance, we've established that we're cool together. Now the second thing is I presented my scent and you present it back. Now we've exchanged gifts. Now they've given me a plaque of this very important bridge in their capital city that represents, I don't know, something. And I give them our something, which could be the Statue of Liberty in a snow globe. Now we've exchanged those gifts. We're cool. Now we're into the last step of the three-step handshake, which is the actual handshake. I am presenting my hand to you, my actual body to you. Stop right there. If you go for the pet, that's where you are not asking consent. Now we've really just foamed the runway, so to speak, to this touch. And the one thing I will tell you to do, if here, over the top of a cat's head, you've just blown consent. Because again, I am an animal who is used to having to defend myself, and everybody could be a potential predator. And that motion over the top of a cat's head is just absolute threat all the way around. So what you want to do is you want to come towards them in a way that you are presenting, but it's not grabbing. So what I'll do is it's just here, not like this, because again, it's all about fingers. But here, my hand is loose. It's not a fist, it's not a fingers, it's right in between, just like I did with my eyes. And I'm presenting it down here to allow them to do the sniff. Try not to go over the top of their head to pet them, like this. You see, when I go like this, there's instantly a little bit of hesitation. If I let him sniff me, less so. And then what comes next? If this leads immediately to the pet, again, I'm not asking consent every step along the way. Here, what I'm hoping for, and what usually will happen if we've laid the ground here, is that they'll either, and then move, or they'll pet me. See how that works? Instead of me going here, the cat is now given the option to just cheek mark, or guide me here. You know, these are very unoffensive spots, cheek, up here, but they've got to guide you to that place. That's it. now you're in. Now you want to go for a pet from that point, you've been given consent. You know, we have now done the pet to each other, and from this point on, we're cool. Now, there are other ways for this to happen. If you've taken yourself into a sitting position, you're not trying to pet, you're not trying to do anything, well, then the cat can just walk up and rub against your leg. That is also the handshake. They have put their scent on you. Now you can go for a pet. Now that you've gotten past this three-step handshake, it's not a finite thing. You didn't just get it, now we're all good to go. Just as consent can be given, consent can be revoked. But we could be talking about any relationship, and the only thing that you got to stay rooted in, again, whether you're sitting across the table from a cat or another human or anyone else, is that it all begins and ends with empathy. If you're always checking in on their story, their history, their triggers, and all of that, and that the fact that you're just feeling your way through those things, as long as it begins and ends with empathy, you're going to be okay. And that's where consent comes from. So the best thing that you can do is just keep checking in. Check in on body language. Is the cat starting to shrink away, or are they coming towards you? Remember, the coming towards you is that way of saying consent is still being given. But then there's the overstimulation part. The thing about keeping to the cheek and the head is that petting-induced overstimulation is probably not going to happen. But the second you start doing that head-to-tail pet, you are making certain assumptions here. Keep checking back in. Do you see those little back spasms? And really importantly, is the cat's tail starting to go? Do we have that sort of overstimulation tail thing happening? Back off. You can always go back in again. Always leave the cat wanting more, and you're good to go. And by the way, if you want to know more about how tails speak to you, warn you, let you know that things are good or bad or otherwise, check out the video right up here all about tails and what they're saying to you. The other human in this equation, let's just say you're going into someone's home, not a shelter or something like that, but you're walking into someone's home. The other human being, the cat's guardian, has a place at the table here. And what they can tell you is, what's Jackpot? What is bribery? You know, let's just face it. What's the best bribery here to get the cat to like you? And usually that comes in the form of their favorite treat. And if there is a favorite treat, then the best thing that that human can do is share the wealth with you, which is to say they pull back, and knowing that you're coming over, they don't give their cat their favorite Jackpot for a day or two. Just hold it back. You come in and you are presenting that Jackpot. You know what that makes you, my friend? That makes you Santa Claus. And that means that there's the Santa Claus effect is in full play, that you come to the table with their favorite thing and you keep coming with their favorite thing. And every time you come over to the house, you are Santa Claus. And all that means is that the other human in this equation has to respect that, share the wealth, pull back on the jackpots so that you can give those jackpots. So now you've got the basic setup of how to just increase the chances that you and this cat can have the beginnings of a beautiful friendship, as they say at the end of Casablanca. What you haven't... Okay, anyway.
Louis, I think this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship.
And then from then on, it's just that constant checking in, looking at body language, making sure that you are constantly asking for, as the cat will be doing also with their body language. If you really want to start digging into it, because I honestly think it's one of the most beautiful parts of a relationship with a cat is the beginning, and how it's worked for me over all these years. Check out my book, Total Cat Mojo. It's rooted in all of this sort of consent and the raw cat and the history and all that good stuff. Plus, like I said, there's plenty of other videos on the channel, hoping that you dig into their world, because if you want that shortcut into them saying, you're okay, I've just given you the beginning here, and it's a really wonderful world to dig into. That is getting a cat to like you in a nutshell. I promise you this, my friends, you may not get every cat in the world to like you when you first walk in a room. I am fine with it, by the way. If a cat doesn't like me, that's their right, it's their space, and I just exist in that space for a little while. But at least you're approaching this from a 360 perspective, and that's all the cat could ever ask for. Go out there armed with the knowledge of customs of a strange land that is called Catland, and go for empathy and consent, and man, that's the best you can possibly do. And don't forget, if you got little secrets in your bag of tricks, I want to know about them too, and so does everybody else. Put them in the comments, because we can all learn from each other. It doesn't matter how long we've been hanging out with cats. And in the language of the world that we live in together, all light, all love, all mojo to you. Next time, everybody.
Meow.